Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the importance of properly screening tenants. Properly screening long-term tenants is one of the most important steps to safeguarding your real estate investment. A well-vetted tenant will help ensure consistent rental income, timely payments, and minimal wear and tear on your property. On the other hand, failing to screen carefully can result in unreliable tenants, leading to issues like late or missed rent payments, property damage, or even legal disputes. Here are 6 factors you should focus on when screening potential tenants. Number 1, credit score. A tenant's credit score offers insight into their financial responsibility and payment habits. Look for a strong history of paying bills on time. Number 2, rental history. Check for prior evictions, rental disputes, or complaints from previous landlords. A solid rental history is a good indicator of a reliable tenant. Number 3, income stability. Ensure the tenant has a steady income and earns at least 3 times the rent amount. This reduces the risk of late payments or financial stress. Number 4, employment verification. Confirm current employment and length of time at their job to assess stability. Number 5, I personally think this one is most important. Reach out to previous landlords and employers to get an honest picture of their behavior, payment history, and reliability. Number 6, background checks. Conduct a criminal background check to rule out any red flags that could put your property or other tenants at risk. So, taking the time to thoroughly screen tenants up front can prevent costly issues and provide peace of mind, ensuring your rental property is in safe hands. It's a small investment of time and effort that pays off significantly in the long run. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Arn Cenedella. Arn is a real estate broker and investor with over 4 decades in the industry. Starting in 1978, Arn built a thriving Silicon Valley residential brokerage business in California while building a sizable portfolio of single-family rental properties. Over this period, Arn assisted many other investors to build their rental portfolios and is well-versed in all aspects of real estate investing, including acquisition, market analysis, financing, management, and 1031 exchange. In 2014, Arn moved to my neck of the woods in Greenville, South Carolina, and continued to invest in small residential income properties in the Carolinas. In 2020, Arn transitioned his single-family rental portfolio to multifamily investments and founded Spark Investment Group to help busy professionals reap the benefits of commercial real estate investments without the hassle of operating the properties. It's a pleasure to have him on the show, so welcome Arn Cenedella. Thunderous applause for you. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I've never had that kind of applause, so I appreciate it, Jen, and happy to be here. Look forward to having a nice chat with you, and extra kind of jazz that you're in the Carolinas too. It's a great market, as we both know, and anyway, excited to get into our conversation.
Yes, yes, it is the Carolinas. I love it. What brought you from? So I came from Florida and moved up to Raleigh, and you came from California over to South Carolina. So what brought you to the Carolinas?
We were just kind of, we were lifelong Bay Area residents, saw Santa Clara Valley turn into Silicon Valley. And of course, that was a great place, great time to be a residential real estate broker. But life is pretty hectic, it's expensive. And so we were looking for kind of a life transition. And we're in Greenville, South Carolina, which is in the upstate of South Carolina, the northwest part of the state, 90 miles from Charlotte, 120 from Atlanta. And Carolinas are centrally located. The weather's a little moderate. As you know, coming from Florida, it doesn't get quite as hot and humid in the Carolinas as it is in Florida. Downtown Greenville is fabulous. We're in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So we enjoy a lot of outdoor activities, and we've now been here about 10 years and love it.
I love it too, and my hair loves it because it was very curly in South Florida. So now the humidity definitely helps my hair, which is, super important for redheads like me. But anyway, you have been doing this since 1978. I'm assuming you started when you were about 5 or 6 years old. Is that correct?
22. So, but thank you. Yes. So, yeah, at the age of 22, 23, I started. Yes.
And what was your first start in real estate?
After I got out of grad school, I returned to the Bay Area. My dad had a residential brokerage business in Menlo Park and Palo Alto, California, which is basically where Stanford is. And he actually had an office out in a little town called La Honda, which was over the Skyline Ridge out towards the coast. And that's where I kind of got started and turned into a lifelong career. There was no grand plan to get into real estate. It's just kind of how my life evolved. And my dad, Hal, was an excellent broker, but even more importantly, he was a really good investor and he was a great mentor towards me. He was a single family investor and I kind of followed in his footsteps and did the single family. He eventually moved to office where, interestingly enough, I kind of transitioned to multifamily within the last 4 or 5 years. So that's kind of a little background.
That's a big change later in life, going from single family home to multifamily. And we're going to get into that in a second here. But I'm just curious, have you done any fix and flips, things like that? Or you went straight from brokerage into buy and holds?
No, I did do quite a few fix and flips. And when I first came to Greenville, which would have been 2014, I probably ended up doing 10, 12 fixer flips. And occasionally, as part of the fix and flip, there was subdivision involved where we maybe bought an old house on a bigger piece of land and cut off a few lots. Fix and flips are a great way to increase your capital in a relatively short period. But as many of your listeners know, it's quite time consuming and hands-on, and you really have to ride the contractors, subcontractors to get things done. So I enjoy doing flips, but at my heart, I've always kind of been more a long-term buy and hold investor, first as single family and now into multifamily.
So let's get into that because that's a pretty scary transition for some, going from single family rentals to multifamily rentals. And what made you make that jump?
So we all kind of know there's an issue with housing affordability in the United States. And what is your most affordable housing? I would say typically it'll either be a mobile home or an apartment. And so there's strong demand at that more affordable housing range. So I think with that strong demand, it makes sense to invest in an asset where there's definitely a lack of supply. There's probably no problem finding $3 million houses, but how do you find affordable living? So I think it's a great niche to be in, the affordable housing space. And number two, with multifamily, the assets are bigger and all of your income sources are on one property. So to think about, you might have 20 rental houses, and single family investing is tried and true. It's a great way to create wealth and income. So anything I'm going to say is not denigrating that approach. I'm just talking about some possible advantages of multifamily. So you have 20 rental units all in the same location. And so there's some advantages there. The other thing that I really like is with the multifamily, they're bigger deals. They're typically done in partnership. And so on my team at Spark, we have three primary partners, Dan, Brian, and I. And we each are excellent at certain aspects of multifamily investing, operation, property management, underwriting. So when you go to multifamily, you can form teams where each person can provide their particular unique skill set. And so the sum total kind of gets better because you have all bases covered. So for example, for me, I love hunting deals. I love talking to investors. I love raising capital. That's what I love to do. My partner, Brian, loves the day-to-day aspects of operating the rental property, collecting the rent, fixing the things, repairs, maintenance, etc. And by the way, your introduction was spot on about the importance of properly screening tenants. One landlord's biggest expense is vacancy and credit loss. So if you can eliminate that, you're already ahead of the game to kind of having a profitable investment. So I thought that was spot on. So I really enjoy the team aspect of multifamily, allows me to do what I'm good at and what I enjoy doing, allows me to find partners who handle the areas that I don't enjoy as much or I'm not as good at.
And what does the third partner focus on?
The third partner does the underwriting and financial analysis. He's a California expat too, who lives up by where you do now in Apex, Carolina, has two daughters. He loves it. He had a career as a CFO. So his life has been spreadsheets, budgeting, analysis, detail. And so we've got it covered. We got kind of the financial. We call him the brain. Brian is the hammer, as in gets things done. His superpower is getting SHIT done. And I'm the hunter who goes out and finds the deals. And that's what I like to do. So the three of us have come together. The other thing I would say, and I know many of your audience partner with people who do flips, go slow in finding partners, right? There's nothing worse. Yes, there's nothing worse than having a bad partnership. So don't form a company. Do one or two flips, see how it works. If it works, maybe you formalize the arrangement. If it doesn't work, you can go on. The way we kind of talk about it is do a little dating before you get married. So to your listeners out there, don't be too eager to jump in because having good partners who have the same kind of values that you have and also kind of have the same perspective on investing is very important. And there's a million ways to make money in real estate. One isn't necessarily better than the other. It's more just finding a way that makes sense to you, that kind of matches your risk reward outlook, and find partners who have similar kind of beliefs. And then the team can operate smoothly. If you have different investing approaches, it's probably not going to work.
Arn, I love that you said that because I coach several newer real estate investors, and a lot of them, I coach them along. I tell them how to evaluate properties. I teach them this and teach them that, but they just get nervous doing the deal and they want to partner with people. And I say, why do you want to share your profits with someone? This is, flipping a property. And it's just that nervousness. And I have seen so many people have unsuccessful partnerships and it has killed their business. So thank you so much for saying that. And I want to back up just a little bit because I recently got into multifamily myself, and I wanted you barely mentioned it, but going from single family rentals to multifamily, and you can start small. You can do 5 or under. So it's going to be very similar to buying a single family home. But when you're closing on it, you're closing on one property. Say you're buying a 4-unit, a quad. It's one property. It's one roof. It is one insurance policy. It is so much easier when you get there. And that you're talking about the loss of rent and the loss of credit. That when you have one person leaving your quad and you're, cleaning it up and renting it out, you're only losing a quarter of what that income is coming in. So I just wanted to reinforce that, and don't be afraid of it. There are definitely deals everywhere to get you started in it. So I'm so glad you tapped into that. I just wanted to reinforce that.
Yeah. And some gurus, and there's lots of gurus in the real estate space, will say, go big as soon as you can. And I don't really believe that. I'm an old guy. I'm kind of an old school fundamental guy. And I believe in a systematic, step-by-step approach to growth, gaining experience as you go. So my first multifamily was 12 units. And now I've bought as big as 281, but I didn't just jump out and buy 281. I needed to gain experience, even though I've spent my lifetime in real estate. And then one thing while we're here, I know many of your audience does single family flips, and it's a great business to be in. In multifamily, you can do what's called value add, where basically it's similar to a flip. It's similar to a BRRRR, buy, rent, renovate, refinance. And when you flip a house, every house is unique. So you got to come up with a plan as to how to renovate it. So I just asked you to kind of think about, if you bought a 10-unit building and every unit was identical, think about how easy it would be to flip those 10 units. You do one, you know how much counter space you need, how much luxury vinyl plank. And so there's some elements of scale where people who know how to flip and renovate buildings, that skill can be applied to multifamily. And I totally agree with your counsel about starting small, try it out, see if it works. And I have a good feeling you might think it's great. And if so, then you can scale up as you go.
Huge. And so well said. So thank you for that. I want to get into the main reason why you're here. I mean, I could talk about this kind of stuff all day, but this is a very loaded question for you, Arn. But how does one safely invest in real estate during turbulent times? I love this question.
Yeah. So first of all, I would say, and flipping is a little bit quicker tempo, but I'd say in general, real estate is kind of a long-term gain. It's a long-term way to create wealth. And in my 46 years now, I guess, the overall trend on values and rent is up. And typically kind of the cycle I see is 5 or 6 boom years, then maybe a year or two of, let's call it retraction or turbulence. There's a little natural decline. Correction's a great word. And then maybe there's a year or two of kind of flat. which sets the plateau for the next run up. So,
well, the reason why I'm asking this, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of lobbing this to you here, is because right now I'm not looking to purchase properties to flip. I am currently looking, and I do the gamut all across the board of different types of investments. And I just feel like my listeners who are mainly flippers, wholesalers, things like that, getting into the business, because it's a turbulent time right now with interest rates the way it are, the NAR settlement, all that stuff, and buyers are scared. So how can they stay involved with real estate and, through these turbulent times by, investing somewhere else possibly?
Yeah, so certainly they could park some money in multifamily investing, though before you do, if you invest with an operator, you kind of got to know what the business plan is, and are they planning to turn this building over in 2 years or 3 years, or is it more a long-term hold? So I think your listeners need to evaluate kind of the time frame
and
on
this
that.
this is called syndication. So
Yes.
basically it's an opportunity for maybe you came into a lump sum of money and you're saying, I watch all these flipping shows, I want to get into flipping, but maybe a smarter route right now is investing that in what we call syndication and becoming a partner with people. So get into that kind of format of how people can, and this is what you specifically do. This is what your company does, is you align people with properties, or you look for general partners, or
Yeah, so we
limited
go
partners,
out.
I guess.
Yes. So the limited partners would be the investors. So we go out, and our market is Greenville, South Carolina. We really believe in market knowledge being the key to successful investing. To the degree you have superior market knowledge, whatever market you're in, whether you're in Raleigh or in Greenville, South Carolina, to the degree you have better market knowledge than your competition, you're going to win as an investor. So we
And I made
strictly
this
invest
mistake.
in Greenville.
I made this mistake.
Tell me.
We bought a 12 unit in Southern Virginia in a very rural area. I'm used to Raleigh, like quick move in. Like, why is this one staying vacant? I just renovated it. So I did make this mistake. So thank you for bringing that up. We're actually trying to sell that property and reinvest it locally in my area. So that's an excellent point. Great.
Yes.
Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. So can you remind me what the question was?
So the investor, they got a chunk of money and they're looking to stay in real estate. And
Yes.
what's another way for them to grow that money?
Yes. So we go out, my team and I go out, and we find multifamily properties to buy. Typically, they're going to be in the $3, $4, $5 million range in Greenville, South Carolina. So typically, we'll need to raise maybe $1 million to $2 million in capital to acquire this property. We borrow the rest from a bank or a local credit union. So we go out and find investors. Our typical investment amount is $50,000. We accept as low as 25. And so we'll pool 30 or 40 investors into a particular property acquisition. And with their capital, we also invest our own capital. We typically put in between 10 and 20% of the capital required because we have skin in the game. We believe in the deal, and we're kind of equal partners with our investors. So we pool the capital together, buy the asset, we sign on the loan. Our investors are not obligated on the loan. There's limited liability. And then we operate the property. They don't really have any day-to-day responsibilities, and they get the lion's share of the profit when we sell the property.
So do they have to be accredited? And can you explain what accredited means?
Yeah, so great question. So accredited is someone with a net worth of $1 million, not including their primary residence, Or if you're single, it's an income 200,000 a year or more. If you're married, it's $300,000 a year or more income. So that's how you qualify to be accredited. Syndications, there's generally two types, 506C, as in Charlie. Those are only open to accredited investors, and they can be advertised to the open market. The other type of syndication, and what Spark generally does, is 506B as in boy. And for those, you can be accredited, but you could also qualify as a sophisticated investor. And essentially, what a sophisticated investor means, they have some prior investing experience, either in the stock market or in real estate. And really, it's, do they have their financial house in order? Are they in a position to invest capital? And the main thing is do they have the financial knowledge and expertise to properly evaluate the risks and rewards of any particular investment? So it's mainly just a knowledgeable investor who has enough education and experience in investing to properly evaluate whether the investment is suitable for them and their family. And under 506B, they're not advertised. So we don't advertise our investments. You have to have kind of a prior relationship with us. So typically people will reach out to me on social media or through email. We'll schedule a call. I'll get to know the people a little bit, answer their questions. I'll kind of query them on where they're at financially. And if it seems like a good fit, then we can proceed.
Wonderful. So you mentioned this before. How does one pick I'm kind of jumping ahead because I really want to know the answer to this question because it's for me personally. But how does one pick a specific market or a niche for that matter?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And
like, what if I live here in Raleigh, but then, Fayetteville, North Carolina, I know they need rentals. And what if I just focus on that area? I mean, how does one determine what is a good area to be in?
Yes. Great question. So number one, you kind of look at population growth.
Okay.
You look at job growth. You can also kind of track median household income. The other thing we really look at is we want a diverse economy, meaning there's two or three strong sectors. So like up in your area, there's tech, there's education, there's government. It's not a one-trick pony town where you only have one industry. So we look for areas that have several major sectors of employment. It could be manufacturing, education, and government. Because if one has a little rough time, you still have two or three legs supporting it. So that's important to us too. So those are kind of the main factors. And then what I would say is, if you wanted to go to Fayetteville, I would spend time, as much time as you could in Fayetteville, get in body to body, face to face, in real time meetings with brokers, property managers, contractors, vendors. Look at every property there, really get to know the market. That would be a better approach than going to Fayetteville, then maybe going to Sumter, South Carolina, and then Florence, and then maybe going Knoxville, Tennessee. One mistake I see investors make is they try to learn 7 or 8 markets, and it's just really hard to do. The other thing is you've got to kind of develop street cred, I'll call it, with the brokers and the other investors, because, like in your area, I'm sure the commercial real estate brokers get 20 calls a day from investors in California. Hey, I want to invest in the Research Triangle. Well, is the broker really going to take you seriously? You're just some person on the phone calling. Now, if you fly there and take the time and energy to get there and sit down with those brokers. And then 2 months later, you come back and you do it again. And then you ultimately buy your first property there. All of a sudden, you have a little street cred and you'll find that you can make progress. So you need to kind of have a footprint in a market, kind of reach a critical mass before you can actually start getting the good deals. The other thing I do when I start investing in a market, and one of the markets I went to after I was still living in the Bay Area, I went to Austin, Texas, and did very well. But one of the things I do, and one of my favorite markets now in the Carolinas is Winston-Salem, Greensboro, has much of the same thing going on in Raleigh and Charlotte, but it's not quite as expensive, not quite as competitive. So I think there's a little room there that people can get in. Subscribe to the local newspaper, subscribe to the business journal, because they're not trying to sell you anything. They're letting you know who's moving in, who's moving out, what companies open. And then the other thing, when I go visit these locations, talk to the people you see on the street, at the hotel, the wait staff. And again, just kind of get a sense, because they don't have a horse in the race. So they're going to kind of let you know, yeah, this is really going well, or this is a problem, and you get to know the neighborhoods that way.
Well, I'm going to go back to your setup of your partnerships, because you are the face, the mouth of the group. That's kind of me. That's what I call myself. I'm the mouth.
Okay.
My husband is like the third partner you described, who is, we call him the freak in the sheets, because he loves a spreadsheet, and he is the, behind the scenes management, running the numbers, doing all that. The third spoke to our partnership when we bought this property in Southern Virginia was the management company. And that's where we went wrong. And so I think the importance of finding the right partners is huge. And I want you to tap into that a little bit more. But all these promises were made. She's a great person. Don't get me wrong. I love how she treats our tenants, and I have a lot of respect for that. But it is slow as molasses for me. I like a little bit more speed. Let's get turnover quicker, things like that. Zero urgency to get these properties filled at times. So that was our failure. And I think we should wrap up this first part of the podcast here by really focusing on the importance of finding the right partners and how people can partner with you at Spark Investment Group and become, hey, money talks, and they can park their money with you to grow their money. How does that work with partnering with you?
So would you like me to address like the property management question, or you want to go more right to the partner?
I'm very bitter with the whole property management thing. But you know what, though? It taught me a lesson of what I need to do. And this is a 12 unit that was way undervalued. And, we will definitely make money off it. We're trying to sell it, but it was a lesson learned. And I'm just reinforcing to the listeners, because you nailed it when you were discussing it. But I do want to get into, the listeners who may have some money that they want to park somewhere. They think being that, they got $25,000. How would they invest with you and to partner with your company?
Yeah, appreciate the question. So first step would be to kind of reach out to me. We'll schedule a call. I have a website, Invest with Spark, that contains numerous blog articles, lots of podcasts I've done, good educational content on the issues of passive investment in syndications. So that would kind of be the first step. And then we'll make a connection. And then as I have opportunities, I'll reach out to you via email. We can schedule a follow-up call. We also do investor webinars where we'll present the entire project to people with a Q&A after. So yeah, happy to talk, educate them, and working on one deal now. Not sure if it's going to go, but hopefully we'll have something here pretty soon.
Good. And it's very important to diversify what you do in real estate. And I can't say that enough. I had friends who got into the short-term rental business and put all their eggs in one basket. And when COVID hit, they were losing thousands of dollars each month. So even if you're a house flipper, if you are a buy and hold, it is always smart to maybe park some money somewhere that's making you a little money on the side. So how does that work with Spark Investment Group? How do they get paid off their, let's say they start small with 50,000. How do they get paid? What does that look like?
Yes. So another great question. And yes, people want to know, how do they get paid? What return do they get on their capital? So we pay quarterly distributions. So every quarter we set up an ACH distribution to it. Typically, our deals are not so much cash flow deals initially, though our average cash on cash return is between 5 and 6%. And that accounts to about 1/3 of the total return. The other 2/3 are off the increase in value of the property. So they get quarterly distributions. And then when we sold the property, they get a significant share of the profit. And we generally aim to double somebody's money over about a 5-year period.
Wow.
5 to 6 years. So some of it is quarterly, you get returns, and then you'll get a nice chunk, which is your return of all your capital plus a share of the profit upon sale.
And that just sounds lovely, Arn. I love that you said that. Well, at the beginning of this podcast, I did a badassery bestowment, which was a little bit of advice. Do you have a badassery bestowment you can share with the listeners?
Yeah. So I would say educate yourself first and foremost. There's an old expression, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And so the way I express it is, with my investing, I have a long-term perspective. I try to hit line drive base hits consistently. I don't swing for the fences. I don't swing for the grand slam. So investors need to kind of evaluate really high promised returns, but they need to understand what risks are involved in shooting for that and what's the probability of the deal going as performed. As you know, you're an investor, or as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till you get hit in the face. And investing can sometimes be like that, because you have a plan, you have a pro forma, you have a spreadsheet, and then Murphy's Law strikes. So try to evaluate whether it's realistic to implement this business plan. And so for me, I just like to steadily grow my capital over time. And if you do that and you consistently invest over a 5 to 10 year period, and again, you're not going to get rich quick in 2 years, people may sell that. It's not my experience, but 5 to 10 years of consistent investing, you can make a significant impact on your financial future, security, and on your way to freedom.
Wonderful. And what is your website for people to check you out to schedule that call?
It's with investwithspark.com. So 3 words, no dashes, no dots, investwithspark.com. I'm also very active on social media, Facebook and LinkedIn, either under Arn Cenedella or Spark Investment Group.
Wonderful. All right. Well, the second part of the podcast is what makes Arn Cenedella a badass, which you are. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Well, the one that was most instrumental in educating me about transitioning from single family into multifamily syndication was the best ever real estate syndication book by Joe Fairless. So I would check that out for people who want to kind of learn a little bit more about multifamily syndication.
And, it can be scary for the listeners, the whole syndication thing. So thank you for recommending that book. I'm going to have to check that one out myself. All right. The first A in Badass is for advice. You gave us excellent advice, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It was my dad when I was just a young whippersnapper at the age of 22, 23. Of course, I thought I knew it all. And he goes to me, pay yourself first. And I go, what do you mean? What does that mean? He goes, take 10% of your paycheck and set it aside. Or another way to say it is live on 80 or 90% of your income. Put the rest away. That delta is now capital that you can invest. So pay yourself first, live below your means, save, and then invest that delta. And if you do that consistently over time, forgo maybe some of the consumer pleasures, drive your car another 2 years, and put that money you saved to work for you, because the compounding factor of investing, as you know, is really dramatic. And the longer you do it, the bigger the returns are.
Well, every morning I post an inspirational meme, and the one this morning was Warren Buffett saying, I might butcher this, but when the tide comes back in, you'll be able to see who's been swimming naked. So that is exactly it. That 10%. Excellent advice from Dad. Thank you for that. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives Arn to be successful?
Well, yeah. So I've been fortunate to be in real estate. It's a great business. It's tangible. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. We all understand it. We look at it. We have an intuitive reaction about it. So really what drives me now is helping others use real estate to create the lives they want. It's been very good to me. It's provided me security and time freedom and financial freedom. And so what really drives me now is helping others learn how to use real estate to really create the lives they want. And people work hard for their money. Life is stressful. And if you can be a good investor, you can ease a little bit and kind of create a more balanced life for yourself.
Very well said. And I also want to add that they're a dime a dozen. There's all these gurus out there who say, I can get you rich, I can do that. And it's people like you, Arn, who has the experience and you have the money coming in. And what do you do with yourself now? You want to give back just how people taught you in the past, getting that education. I know you mentioned that earlier. It's very, very important. And when you are looking to invest money, you want to invest. I'm talking to the listeners now. Listeners, you want to invest with someone like Arn, who has the experience, who has been through it all, and really think twice about these people who say, I will get you your first $1,000, by next week or whatever, just really, because there are people who go from real estate, do a couple flips, and then go straight into coaching, because there's a lot of money that can be made in coaching. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. Goodness, sure. I went off on a tangent there. All right. But that was so important to say.
You believe in. Yes, it's something you believe in. So it's important to say.
Absolutely. All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Yeah, another great question. So, I would like to increase our ability to raise capital between my two partners, Dan, Brian, and I. We've been successful raising, I think right now we have maybe $11 million invested with us. I think about 135 unique investors. We'd like to increase our ability to raise capital so we can do more deals or perhaps bigger deals. And then the other thing is want to improve kind of our back end operations. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of activity involve syndications. And now that we have maybe 7 to 8 syndication deals all operating at one time, developing better systems and processes. And I'm sure your audience who does flips, if they've got 5 flips going and they need systems to account for the income in, the bills, the invoices. So I'm going to work on improving our systems to make the workflow a little more efficient.
And in your one sheet, which is what a lot of people who are guests on podcasts, what they use, you have on there that you started before spreadsheets. Like, how did you get things done? So I'm sure your back office has evolved well over time. And I'm going to bet you maybe had what some of these youngins don't even know, but I bet you had a Rolodex. Did you have a Rolodex sitting on your desk?
I certainly did have a Rolodex. And hey, when I first got into business, fax machines were new. And if people want to know what takes the place of a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, this is my HP 12C financial calculator that's literally 40 years old. So I still have it. It's the greatest machine ever. And I use it to kind of do the first pass analysis. And then if I like it, I turn it over to Dan and he does the full Excel model. And it's useful information. And of course, there's garbage in, garbage out. So the spreadsheet isn't God. You have to put accurate information in, which then comes back to market knowledge. Put in accurate information, the model will generate accurate returns, but you need to put in the proper market information.
So true. And you said that you're working on your back office systems, but that leads us to the first S in badass, which is systems. So currently, what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Well, my best system is my VA in the Philippines, a young guy named Etzel, smart kid, going to law school, and he works for me 30 hours a week. So I'd encourage people to look into getting a virtual assistant. There's so much you can offload that just saves me so much time. And you have to train them a little bit, but once you get them trained, they free hours in the day for more productive activity. And then I pretty much use ActiveCampaign as kind of my contact database, send out my monthly newsletters through ActiveCampaign, send out the deal alerts. And then what we've recently moved to is we're kind of doing a LinkedIn outreach to find more investors. And we're using a software called Expandy, which generates outreach to to people in LinkedIn. And so those are kind of the three systems we're using.
And LinkedIn, for some of these Gen Z folks out there, is a very untapped market. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. To wrap this up, the final S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
So success means helping others, being productive, but also having fun. I'm 70 years old. My partners, one's late 40s, one's early 50s. And they ask me, well, how long are you going to keep doing this? And I go, well, I'm going to keep doing it as long as I have fun. And that's one of the other great things about real estate. You can kind of do it forever. Helping others, having fun. And the other part about being a real estate investor and having tenants and residents is you are providing a community service. You're improving these properties. You're providing housing to people who needs it. And so we take pride in our property. Tenants work hard. They pay rent. Rent isn't cheap, and in return, they deserve a decent place to live. So if you can provide that for somebody, there's good feelings there too. And so we take pride in having nice properties, pride of ownership. Our name is on them, and they reflect on us. So we like to run first-class operations.
Well, I think that is a first-class answer to the meaning of success. So, Arn, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And I just want to remind the listeners to check you out at Spark Investment Group, and you can visit investwithspark.com. And if you want to look up Arn on LinkedIn or social media, it's ARNCENDEL. Della. So thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And I hope if you come up in the Raleigh area and pass through, love to grab a drink, say hi. And again, such a pleasure to meet you, Arn. Thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, same for me, Jen. It is a pleasure. And yes, if we get up to Raleigh, I'll definitely look you up and hopefully our schedules will sync up. So that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.